and a lot of things have been happening, testing, all the good stuff, all the juicy stuff. A lot of concerns, a lot of premature concerns, a lot of concerns that were phantom concerns. And I know you probably say, like, what do you mean phantom concerns, Wolfpack? What are phantom concerns? How do you have phantom concerns? Well, concerns probably from being marred or being traumatized. If you're a Mercedes fan, last season definitely was not the best season for you, especially depending on when you came in. Testing last season seemed like it was going to be okay, and there was a lot of sandbag talk, and then next thing you know, it was a lot of porpoising talk, and then after that, it was a lot of shit's falling apart and falling apart talk. But now the W14 comes out, and things are looking a bit different. But there are teams that are being said that there may be some porpoising in their future that probably people didn't expect. What's going on, y'all? And one of those teams is Ferrari. Ferrari is one of those teams. And Ferrari has definitely done some other things that seem a bit touchy and a bit edgy. Okay, so the first thing we'll go into is some of Ferrari's front wing furniture, their separators. We know that this was a situation last season, not only with not Ferrari this season, but with Mercedes. And Mercedes had this at Coda, and then it turned out that they were saying that these were illegal. So let's look at this, because it said that Ferrari might be experiencing some porpoising, and I want to say, if they are, what that could be attributed to. And what that could be attributed to is this. One of the things could be their new situation, which could be called a S-duct or a bypass duct. And what this is doing is collecting air midway down there by the floor, and then taking that air supposedly, I'll say supposedly, because we don't know full inner workings of everything, how they might have things separating, taking that air off the back, off the front, and throwing it off the back of the car across those cooling louvers and into that canal that you so famously know the Ferrari Sidepod for 2022. Okay, now with this being the case, they're directing and channeling airflow from one part of the car to the top side, bottom part to the top side of the car. Now, Ferrari did have a concept like this before, last season, I believe, but it was in the nose section. And in the nose section, they were running this bypass duct system, but the regulations wrote it out, and it tended to get banned, or it would wrote them out so that they couldn't do it, or it wasn't going to be done, trying to clean up that area. But what they've done now is take that same concept and move it to the side of the car, from the floor up through the side pod area. All right. So if you see here, there's an inlet just beyond the suspension in front of that area button where you saw in the side pod, and it's going to run up and throw it over the louvers to the top of the side pod by the cockpit section. And that's what's going on. Now, I do think that if it is indeed, because there is a section of track where people thought that Mercedes was porpoising, but that wasn't indeed the case. Indeed the case. What's up, YRE Supreme? I see you there. Wasn't indeed the case. What that was is a section of that track is bumpy, because I watched several cars come across that track. Red Bull sparked it up on the plank. Haas sparked it up on the plank. It's a section of that track that's bumpy, and that's what Mercedes was hitting. But it said that there were probably other areas where Ferrari had a vertical type movement in the helmet of Sainz, because he was on track, by the way, also having the fastest lap for some time until Max Verstappen captured it. And there may be some. So if there is some, I think it's one or two or both things that may be attributing to that porpoising action, which it may not be hard to fix. Okay. This is a situation, and this is a concept that if it does prove valuable and useful to Ferrari, I wonder if there are other teams that are prepared to move into development of this type of development. I don't know how intricate it may be and how soon teams may be able to replicate or duplicate that. And even if some teams already kind of knowing Ferrari were coming out with this from the launch, already started kind of working on it. But if that is the case, there's still going to be a delay. But I'm just saying that along with the Viking, I don't think the Viking winglets, which you can see outlined in this previous picture right here, which is the last arrow to your left, I don't think it's that causing porpoising. I definitely don't think it's the boomerang on the halo. I think it's one or two things, and I think it's this S-duct or this bypass duct system that could be causing any type of porpoising they may be having, because reintroducing it to a different location on the car, or the other section where I think it could possibly be happening, okay, as you see airflow right there, is the front wing development. Okay, now let's look at that, because Ferrari also did that, and let's look at that furniture. So the front wing situation goes as it is right here. Now this is the reg, and you can find other portions where it kind of kind of hints to it, but it's talking about the separators, okay? And now you can read through this, but basically be in its entirety. They're giving you the measurements, the two profiles. You can have no more than 8 on each side of the car, and the dimensions must not exceed 70 millimeters, 750 millimeters on the X plane. What are they talking to? Well, what they're talking to is this. Mercedes and Coda last season, if you don't remember, especially after all the cost cap blow up, they brought out this front wing arrangement that had these separators or outwash furnishings on them. Difference between this one that Mercedes had deployed at Coda, which I think was a flare up and a pretty much fuck you to the FIA. If you're going to allow Red Bull to cheat, if you're going to allow Red Bull to go over the cost cap, you say it was in goddamn catering. I don't believe so. Then we're going to bring out furniture and parts that you deemed should be banned and put them on our front wing so we can defy the philosophy of the new car and the regulations, which would be disturbing outwash flow, which kind of dirties up the air behind for the chase car, which this generation of car was supposed to remedy. So what does Ferrari do? Ferrari comes and yes, they put these separators in. Look at the angles. It's clear that they're directing or washing out airflow, which technically would be against the philosophy of this car. But the way they've done it within the regulations, is this something that will get banned? I don't know. We'll have to see. The S-duct, could it get banned? I don't know. We'll have to see, like I said. But if there is a situation where Ferrari is porpoising, I do think that the problem will be in one or two of these or both of these upgrade or updates on this new SF-23. That is what I think. It may be totally something different. It could be something as small as maybe they just have to change the pitch. Maybe there's something in the floor, a flick they got to change. I don't know, but I do know that these two additions are different and in different locations, and they directly impact the airflow. So why is it not possible that indeed this is where their problem could be? It could very well be. All right. So if it is the case that Ferrari says and comes out they're porpoising and they're experiencing it, and then other teams start seeing it, I think their problem may lie here. Okay. So, hey, that's some of the things that we were seeing as far as us being on at the testing. We were live in testing from the very beginning all the way up until the break. They're on break and lunch break now. We will be back at testing day 2 in the morning. I got up at 12 midnight. I've been running and up since then. And these are the things we're going to see. And it is crazy to see that Albon, look at that list. Look at that chart. Albon third. Make no mistake. He wasn't third. He was first. He had the best lap for some time until I think Verstappen got it. And then Sainz got it and held it for almost the entire session until Verstappen came back out late, a hot lap, which he does, and then he captured the first. But also Drugovich rode the bottom. He rode 10th until almost later in the season, having a little fun with Zhou, and then Zhou getting passed up by Drugovich brings it up to 7. So it's going to be interesting to see what Alonso does. Piastri was 9th until Drugovich said, I'm fucking out of here. Now Piastri sits 10th. Gasly didn't do much of anything. Tsunoda didn't do much of anything. Hulk, he's Hulk. All right. Russell was lower, brought it up to 5th. I thought it was a little bit eyebrow raising that he was on the same compound as 2 other teams in front of him that I definitely think the W14 should be faster than, and that's Williams and Alfa Romeo. I'm a little bit eyebrow raising. I'm not going to even say suspect, but as you will see, the next driver lineup coming in will be, as you see right here, I'm going to bring this in. This is your driver lineup for the afternoon session of day 1. You're going to have Verstappen. Red Bull's going to do it different. They're going to let their drivers go consecutively and switch over midway and then finish it out. But you're going to have Hamilton in for Mercedes. You're going to have Leclerc in for Ferrari. Ocon will be in for Alpine. We'll see if he does better than Gasly. Norris will be in for Piastri. We'll see if Norris does better than Piastri. Or will that be, if both drivers kind of do the same, then that might be an indictment on the MCL 60, which is a bigger problem than McLaren probably wants to have. Bottas will be in for Zhou. Alonso will be in for Drugovich. Drugovich is also replacing Lance, which had a bicycling incident, and he's going to be out all the testing unless otherwise reported. K-Mag will then fill in for Hulk, and then not fill in, but he'll be taking over. And then De Vries will be on track over than Sonata, and then Sargent will be on track for Williams, and we'll see if Sargent can do the same thing with the FW-45 that Albon did, which be top 3 in his session, the morning session. So yeah, all of that is going to be happening. There are some other things for you to look into, and some of those things to look into is the new tire arrangement, in case you're wondering. Now, you might come into this and see this, but yes, the tires are going to be a bit different. I'm going to bring this in for you so you can identify your tires in the session. If you see an all black tire, that's going to be their prototype. Now listen, if you see any tire that does not have the stripe or stripe and writing, these are different tires. For your C0, you won't have a stripe. For C1, you'll have the stripe with the writing. For C2, no stripe once again. For C3, you'll have stripe with writing, prototype all black. For C4 soft compound, no stripe. For C5 soft compound, you'll have stripe and writing. Inners and wets will be writing and stripes, so that you can be familiar with how I identify the tires that Pirelli is introducing for all the duration of testing. All right, okay, so that's going to be one thing that you might want to pay attention to, as well as the driver lineup. Something else that was real interesting was the Sidepod variation from 2022 to 2023 with Red Bull Racing. You can see some of those changes of the characteristics of the Sidepod, not only seeming a bit more girthy right there in 2023, but also those lines bit more profound, or at least in the 2023 version on the bottom versus the top in 2022, that line that is more pronounced at the bottom. And as you see going up where the Oracle C is, that line is more pronounced in 22 and a little bit less pronounced in 2023. Also some variations and bits that you'll see right there on the floor, and the flicks going up there just after the fence. So those are some things that you also might want to pay attention to with Red Bull having the differences on their floor, and definitely something nice. As well as we did have some pictures that we collected, and one of those pictures that were collected was the fact that Russell and Hamilton not only having their sensors there on their steering wheel for their shakedown in Silverstone, but also bringing those sensors, still collecting data, probably vertical acceleration or oscillation in the steering wheel or in the car itself. So they are definitely doing that. Also, we had these images right here, nice images of the Williams with the aero rakes, Ferrari coming down the track, nice flow viz. You got to see the flow viz being used heavily with Williams, trying to see how the characteristics of that airflow over their surface. AlphaTauri, of course, running aero rakes. Aero rakes were out everywhere, pretty much on every team. I think Aston Martin put theirs in more places than other teams, the front and the rear. Drugovich ended up having an unreliable issue. He ended up having to pull off track. Aston Martin did get the car fixed and get him back on track. As you see, he came up from 10 to 7th. Also, got to see pictures of pit lane, Ferrari rolling down, old theme from AlphaTauri compared to the new theme. We're going to see what happens between Nick DeVries and Yuki. More shots of Williams. Here's more comparison photos of the Red Bull Sidepod from 2022 to 2023. Alpine out there with no aero rakes running. They did have a nice front wing design. If you notice, the Alpine's front nose is a lot flatter than most other teams. That was nice. And their separators a little bit more aggressive on that main plane of the front wing, which I'll be trying to get a hold of a photograph for that. Also, again, Ferrari, Red Bull running down, and then Mercedes getting pushed in. Mercedes on track. The Aston Martin, nice green, but not doing so well, except Drugovich bringing that from 10 to 7. And there we go, some more little floor pictures of Red Bull. So, yeah, things are looking spicy for testing. Things are looking good. Things are looking promising for Mercedes. They look really solid on the car. The car was not porpoising, like I said. I believe that was characteristics of the track, being bumpy in that section. Like I saw Red Bull come through that same section and light it up with the plank and spark it up. I saw Haas do the same thing. So I have not seen clear identified porpoising in Mercedes. So that is, again, a plus. What we'll see in the later session and then days coming 2 and 3, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens then. But I do like what I'm seeing from the teams. I like what I saw from Ferrari, aside from the possibility there might be some porpoising there, but I don't think it's going to be an issue for them to fix if they need to fix it. So, hey, thank you for joining us for testing. Thanks for joining us for this. Is it possible that Ferrari's porpoising? Yeah, if it is the problem in the S-duct and their front wing separators, quote unquote, outwash furniture? Possibly. Let me know what you think. Also, don't forget, all new members that join, you're in the Discord, just enable your connections. Also, all new members that joined during the live session that we had for testing, thank you. And everybody else that joined there, thank you. You make it great. I'm passionate about what I do, and you are a big part of why I come back and keep doing what I do to commune and talk F1-ish with you. Don't forget, the audio podcast version is available on Podbean, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, Amazon. It's available on a lot of different podcast platforms. Look for Performance Talk Wolfpack Performance, and you should be able to see that. Many of those episodes are going to be coming out. I think I got like 8 podcast episodes that are going to come out in the next 2 weeks. I'm going to flood the block with that. We're going to get more heavy on the audio podcast. So big shout out to you all. I'm going to go get ready and prep for things that I have to do going on today. And I'm going to get me something to eat. I had a honey bun on live, and I'm going to bring a honey bun tomorrow too. All right. So y'all stay up. Peace.